So let's talk hormones. When and why should a woman get her hormones tested?
So for me, during the peri-menopause, if you've got symptoms, what happens is, you can get multiple symptoms. You've talked about symptoms for the last week or so in terms of what people can experience. And when you've got a lot of symptoms going on, it's very, very hard to understand which hormones they relate to. Okay, so in my book, I talk about the feisty four, and they are the main hormones that kind of dictate how you look, feel, think, and behave and perform over 40, because they're the ones, if we concentrate on those four, majority of the time, if you get those four in control, you're going to feel amazing. So those are the four. Obviously there's over 100 hormones in the body, so we're not going to go there, but those are the four in perimenopause that tend to rule the roost. Okay, so I'll run through them quickly. Cortisol, your stress hormone. Thyroid runs your metabolism. Estrogen is your main sex hormone, which works alongside progesterone as well. And then insulin, which is your blood sugar, hormone, which actually I call your fat storing hormone, because that's what it does when you're in your perimenopausal years, mostly. So these four, if you concentrate on these four, and they all come with different symptoms, but the symptoms attributed to all four of them tend to cross over. So for instance, brain fog could be any one of those four. Poor sleep could be any one of those four. Weight gain generally could be any one of those four. So there are specific symptoms for each one, but a lot of them cross over. And that's because when one of those four is out of balance, the others tend to be too, because they all interconnect and depend on each other.
Right.
So when I see somebody in clinic or I have a client, then, I will take a health history, I will take all their symptoms, and I'll have a really good overview of what's going on for them, but they might have these multiple crossover symptoms. So I'm not going to know for sure. I can have a good indication based on their history and the diet, etc. But I'm not going to know for sure which hormone might be most out of balance. So testing for me takes out the guesswork. So I'm pretty intuitive when it comes to talking to someone and kind of getting a feel for it. But, if I've got it on paper, everything is, much more accurate. And then I know exactly, we don't waste any time. We get straight to the problem. The other thing with testing is it gives you a totally personalized program. So I can, look at, without the testing, I would put you on a kind of hormone balancing, kind of a gentle detox program that is, balances your blood sugar, that takes the stress off, that gives you all the nutrients you need for your hormones, which is going to get you a long way. And I have an online program that does just that. It's a 30-day program, and it gets all those nutrients in 30 days, which is going to help a lot of people. Like 90% of people would benefit from that, absolutely. But when we do the testing, we can know exactly what's going on. So we'll put the exact nutrients your body needs to redress that balance. So imbalance, should I say. So for instance, if you have if you have a fasting insulin level that's a little bit high, it's nudging upwards. That's kind of towards the pre-diabetic range. It's suggesting your blood sugar's out and you've got too much insulin running around. Then we know exactly what to do with the diet. We'll get that prioritized. So if you've got, a thyroid level that's kind of borderline, but not enough for the doctors to treat, but it's borderline and it's giving you symptoms, then we would make sure we get the nutrients in so that your thyroid gland can work properly. So that's where the program becomes totally bespoke to you and your individual imbalances. So that's very, very effective, and you get your results a lot quicker. The other thing with testing is when you see something on paper, it's much more likely to motivate you to actually do something. So I can tell you until I'm blue in the face that you need to manage your stress.
But I want proof that I need to.
Yeah, your stress, right? Katie, you need to manage that, and you need to do it because otherwise, stress is going to kill you, basically, right?
Yeah, whatever.
So you're going to go, all right, whatever. Yeah. So if we did an adrenals test on you and tested your cortisol and it's kind of wildly out of range, you're going to take a lot of notice of that, aren't you?
Yeah,
rather than me telling you
so true. We do love to see
slow down and switch off,
right? Proof. Yeah.
Yeah. And the last thing testing does, it helps us to measure your progress. So if we test you from the beginning, we put the program in place, and then we retest at the end, we can actually see measurable results rather than you just saying, well, I feel a bit better, but I'm not sure if it's because of that supplement or because I've changed my diet or whatever. Retesting not many people actually take up retesting because actually they feel so good that they don't actually need to, and they're not actually that bothered. But when we do retest, we can measure it. So it's very useful for that.
Our hormones, and it's all fluctuating all the time, though, isn't it? I've spoken to someone, it might have been today. I'm kind of losing track a little bit. But the idea that you can test today and they'll be different to testing tomorrow.
Yeah, although, you know, if your levels are generally high or generally low, we'll get a really good indication of where you are.
Okay.
So whether they're fluctuating slightly, it won't matter. So for instance, your estrogen and progesterone are probably the ones that fluctuate the most over the month. But we test those in your luteal phase, which is the second half of your cycle, around about sort of 5-6 days after ovulation. And if we get it in that particular period, then you know, we know exactly where your hormones should be. We've got a really good reference range for that. So because that's going to show up after ovulation, we know where your estrogen and progesterone should be there. So that gives you a much more accurate picture as, say, if you tested it in the beginning half of your cycle, for instance.
Gotcha.
So, so you know, there are lots of different. I mean, thyroid's pretty standard. It doesn't fluctuate too much. So if your thyroid's low, we're going to probably pick it up. And then insulin and HbA1c, which is your blood sugar markers. HbA1c is a marker of your last 3 months blood sugar control. So that's pretty solid.
Right. And how would I know that it's time to go and get my hormones tested?
Well, if you've got symptoms that aren't getting better. So you may have been to see your doctor and you've still got symptoms, or you may have tried a diet or a supplement program and you've still got symptoms, then, you know, I'd want to know what's going on. And that's the only thing that actually helped me, because well, first of all, I didn't really understand what was going on, and I didn't really believe what was going on either. So for me, it was more sort of, oh, that's happening. Oh shit, I better change something.
Yeah. And then can you talk about the different tests that you can get NHS compared to privately? Like, what can they test for on the NHS, and what are you not getting, and what do you need to go private for?
Yeah, and this is where it's a real struggle for many women, because the NHS is very limited in terms of testing. So if you go in and ask your doctor for hormone testing, because you have perimenopausal symptoms, he will probably look at your FSH and your LH. And these are, you know, if they're raised, they're just a sign that your body's struggling to produce enough sex hormones. So all that does is tell you that you're in perimenopause. Well, your symptoms are telling you that anyway. So, and actually it's just not that useful. So sometimes they'll say to you, and sometimes they'll be normal and they'll say, yeah, you're fine, you're normal. I mean, you don't actually feel normal.
Yeah.
Because actually that's only looking at one tiny part, that one, you know, the estrogen progesterone part of your 5-4, if you look at those all those different hormones. So so not that helpful. If you are tired and really struggling to lose weight, they might look at your thyroid. The problem with thyroid testing is that they only look at your TSH and T4. Often they'll only look at your TSH. And your TSH is coming from your brain. There's a big pathway with the thyroid hormone. So your brain kicks off the TSH. It goes to your thyroid gland to tell it how much T4 to produce, which is your thyroxine hormone. But those two hormones are quite inactive. They don't actually do anything. This has to then convert into something called T3, which is your active thyroid hormone. That's the one that goes into the cell, increases your metabolism, you know, tells the cell how much fat to burn, makes your brain work properly, makes your joints all supple, you know, makes your digestion flow nicely. So every cell in the body responds to thyroid hormone, okay? So it controls the energy of every single cell. So if your thyroid is low, and that T3 is low, you're going to have symptoms of low thyroid. You're going to be really struggling to lose weight. Your hair might be coming out. Your skin might be all dry. You might have a sluggish digestion. You're going to absolutely feel exhausted. You're going to feel cold hands and feet because your circulation's not getting through. You know, you might have real brain fog or anxiety because your brain cells haven't got enough energy from thyroid. Right, so that it can affect pretty much joint pain as well, you know, any cell in the body. So when they don't look at that active hormone, they're not testing for that. They very rarely test that. In fact, I've never, maybe one doctor in the whole of my time doing this has looked at a T3 level. They don't know whether your thyroid's actually getting into the cell and doing the job. So they'll tell you if your TSH and T4 are normal, they'll tell you you're fine. And when I test, I look at T3 because I want to know if it's actually doing the job it's supposed to be doing. And so many people who come to me and say, my doctor said my thyroid is normal, we get the thyroid checked and their T3 is low.
But tell me about normal, because I know when we were speaking the other day, you said you've got to be so careful with this normal word.
I call it the problem with normal.
Right.
And the problem with normal is in the NHS, their reference ranges are massive, right? So they do them based on, like, I don't know, a huge percentage of the population. And if you're sitting at the bottom of normal over here, they'll say your levels are normal, you're fine. But that doesn't mean you're fine. It could, you know, sitting over here may not be good enough for you because your body needs more. So this huge range is not that helpful for a lot of people. And I want to get people to optimal. I don't want them sitting at the bottom of normal. So that's the problem with normal. It's it's not even normal. It's kind of, I don't know what it is. It's just too wide a range.
Gotcha. So they come to you, or any, I mean, where can we go for private hormone testing? Obviously you.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of nutritionists will do private tests. But we are hormone specialists. We don't only do hormone tests. We do a lot of gut tests as well, because gut and hormones are very much linked. Because a lot of, I'd say about 70-80% of women come to us with hormone issues or hormone symptoms. And a lot of those have gut problems as well, like past IBS or bloating, or, you know, issues with the digestion. So, you know, they go hand in hand, because the digestion helps to regulate hormones, and hormones have an impact on your digestion. So they tend to go. So our most common tests actually are a full hormone panel and stool tests as well, but not for everyone, obviously, only if you have need for that, because often that's the missing link with the gut. It's not properly tested. So the NHS don't even have access to these tests, because they're state-of-the-art tests from labs that are privately funded. So they've got the resources, they've got all the latest science, and they're incredibly helpful for us doing clinical work.
Yeah, amazing. I'm really keen to have we were talking there the other day, weren't we? And the idea of getting my hormones tested, it's really silly, and maybe this is totally unique to me, but I'm going to out myself, because who knows, maybe there's someone else out there thinking the same thing. But remember I said to you, but what if I come to you and you tell me that everything about my hormones is totally normal? Then I'm going to think that I'm making this all up.
You're going to do a happy dance.
Yeah, but what does that mean for my night sweats, which actually have stopped because of just tweaks I've made and so on? But yeah, I have to say, perhaps. But
how old are you, Katie? We're gonna have a little consultation here.
Let's do it. I'm 43. I'll be 44 in July.
Okay, so you're about the age that when I started having issues.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're in peri-menopause. So your hormones start to change and fluctuate from 35 onwards. So, you know, there are if you came back to me completely normal with all those hormones that I talked about, you'd be the first one I've ever seen. Right.
Well, I do like to stand out.
Well, you would probably just do that just to annoy me, wouldn't you? I'm the star pupil.
Yeah, yes, please.
But you know what? Actually, that's really good too, because it shows that you're doing all the right things, that you're nicely balanced. And what we would do with you is actually put in a kind of preventative program, so that we stay all nice and balanced, and you don't go down the imbalanced route, and you will sail through this time and be better equipped when you come out of it to have a good quality life as you get older. It's just sort of an anti-aging kind of preventative program. But you know, it's very, very rare. I can't remember the last time we got test results back and everything was normal. We had nothing to do. It's
nothing just to do with her. Yeah. What would you be looking for if I came to you and we decided to do some hormone testing? What would you be looking for specifically when you looked at my test results?
Yeah, so if we did the hormones, I'd be looking at any imbalances at all. So we do the Adrenal Profile, which is your cortisol over 4 points of the day. So in the morning, it should be nice and high to wake you up. And then it sort of dips a little bit for lunch, and you know, keeps you nice and energized all day, and then it dips very, very slowly towards nighttime so that you can sleep.
Right.
And what I'm finding is when these results come back, we have 3 different stages. We have the ones that are super high all day long. They don't they spike, and then they don't really come down much. And those are the people that are really, really stressed out, anxious, wired, and they have trouble sleeping because their cortisol isn't low enough to get to sleep. Because cortisol is your wake up energy hormone, right? So if you've got that going on, you're going to be wired, right? And then we get the low ones, the other extreme, where you've been like that for such a long time that your adrenals are really struggling to pump out enough cortisol to keep you energized and keep you awake and alert. And so if you're low, like I was sort of down the bottom, just like, you know, that walking through treacle thing. I was exhausted because I didn't have enough cortisol. So my adrenals had been too stressed for too long. So there, you've got to be very careful in that bit, because that's the bit that can lead to adrenal fatigue, burnout, chronic fatigue, all of those nasty things where you can't get out of bed. So that's the dangerous bit. And then you get the in-between phase where you can go up, down like a yo-yo. And I've seen quite a few results where the cortisol's low in the morning, goes up, and then sort of dips a little bit, but it's really high at night. So it's completely the opposite way around. So that lady was, you know, really struggling to get up in the morning, but wired as hell at night, and she couldn't sleep because her body clock had done a flip and switched around. And that was through years and years of stress.
Wow.
So that's what we'd look for in say a cortisol result. For thyroid, I'm looking at that whole pathway, because you know, we want to see which is the weak point. Because if your thyroid's low, I want to see if it's your T4 gland, if the gland's not producing enough, or whether it's not converting very well into T3, because you need a whole load of nutrients for that to happen. So if you're deficient, say, in iodine or zinc or selenium, this conversion process won't work very well. So we get those nutrients back in to help your thyroid convert into the active hormone, so then it can go and give you lots of energy and make your brain work and get you into fat burning mode again. So that's the kind of thing we're looking for. Which bit of the pathway isn't working? We also look at antibodies, by the way, because that's something that the doctors don't look at. Because if your antibodies are raised, but your thyroid hormone blood levels are normal, we've still got a problem, because your immune system is attacking your thyroid, but it's just managing to pump out enough, but it's the immune system that's at fault. And that is an autoimmune condition, and that's a completely different protocol. That's looking at the gut again. So it'll looking at the different weaknesses will inform us as to what needs working on.
Yes.
And what needs improving. Yeah, so those are the cortisol and thyroid. The sex hormone one, we'll know if you're estrogen dominant or not. So if you've got too much estrogen in relation to progesterone, we want to really support your liver, because that enables the liver to get rid of all that excess estrogen. And we're going to be looking at your environment and what kind of fake estrogens you might be exposed to, so that pushes up your estrogen levels as well. And then with blood sugar, we're looking at, like I said, the fasting insulin, the HbA1c, to know whether your blood sugar's out, and we need to start intervening before it gets to a more chronic stage. And then we also look at some nutrients as well. I'm looking for vitamin D. It's actually a hormone. I don't know if you knew that.
I think I did know that.
Yeah. So
I don't know how. Yeah.
So we include that in the hormone profile as well, because vitamin D is incredibly important, not just for your bones. It makes your brain work. So a lot of vitamin D deficiency, a lot of depression is about vitamin D deficiency. So, you know, we all feel better when the sun comes out, and there's something to that. If your brain hasn't got enough vitamin D, it's going to feel a lot lower. But vitamin D is also important for your metabolism as well. And of course, it's your main immune system regulator. So all through the winter.
I didn't know that.
It protects your immune system. So, or it boosts it, if you like. So I personally think that vitamin D, if you keep your vitamin D levels up really super high during the winter, you wouldn't need a flu jab or anything like that, because that would be more protective for me than getting a jab. And also vitamin D is now known to be your #1 breast cancer protector.
How do we get vitamin D if we're not getting sunshine, like those of us in the UK have just had a 6-month winter?
Exactly. And we're all coming out of our winter with low levels of vitamin D if you haven't been supplementing. Everyone should supplement during the winter. We should be giving it to the kids, because the kids are now getting rickets of all things, you know.
Are they? Seriously?
Yeah, rickets is coming back because the kids are so vitamin D deficient. Not only through the weather, but, you know, because they're staying inside more and we're not letting them play out in the street and whatever. So there's lots of reasons for that. Yeah, vitamin D, you've got to supplement. You know, 2,000 IU a day through the winter will see you through the winter. And then the minute the sun comes out, get it on your skin if you can. unexposed, no sun cream. It doesn't get through sun cream, doesn't get through clothes. You have to run around naked.
Okay.
But you need that, the strong sun for, good 15-20 minutes to make enough vitamin D.
So vitamin D doesn't get through sunscreen?
No.
Okay. Good to know. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And of course, we all protect ourselves, don't we? With sun cream, with clothes, and the darker your skin, the more vitamin D you need as well, because it just doesn't get through enough. So lots of reasons to supplement vitamin D. But anyway, we can test for that. So we look at those levels and see how deficient you are. That informs us how much you need to be on with supplements.
Amazing. Oh my God. Your dad must be so proud of you.
Yeah, I don't know. He wanted me to be a doctor. That I think, he's never quite got over that, but hey.
Oh, I think you're doing something amazing to support women. It's incredible. So I thought we would just, let me see if we've got any questions. If you are here live on the Zoom chat, and if you would like to ask Nikki any questions, you can. There's a little Q&A box at the bottom. You're very welcome. If you are on Facebook, I won't be able to get your questions answered live, but I'm sure Nikki wouldn't mind jumping onto the Facebook page at a later date, or even later today, and just answering your questions. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
absolutely.
But yeah, if you've got any questions, go ahead. I thought we would just kind of break down your book a little bit, and really what I want is some top tips from you. So your book is The Essential Guide Around Fighting Fat, Fatigue, and Hormone Havoc.
Yeah.
Let's look at fat and fatigue specifically. And what are your top tips for a perimenopausal woman to fight fat? And then let's look at fatigue.
Okay, there's a couple of, in fact, actually, you can do them both because they kind of go together.
Okay.
And one's dietary and one's lifestyle. Okay, so the first one is dietary. So I would say the less, in the old days, we used to be told to eat little and often to keep your blood sugar balanced. I don't think that's just terrible advice. Okay, unless you're diabetic or you have hypoglycemia or anything like, or you feel dizzy or anything, so definitely qualify that. If you're one of those people, you will need to eat little and often. But for most of us, all that does is produce more insulin, because every time we eat something, we get another insulin surge to take the blood sugar out, okay? And insulin is your fat storing hormone. So if we got lots of that going around, all we're doing is fat storing, right? So don't snack. And if you do have to snack because it's gonna, you feel hangry or dizzy or whatever it is bugging you, then, just protein, nuts and seeds or something like that, or, crudités and hummus or something like that, right? So stay off the sugar and the carbs, because that just puts you on the blood sugar roller coaster again, and you just need to snack more. Yeah. So try not to snack. I mean, good 4 to 6 hours between breakfast and lunch, and then lunch and dinner. That gives your body enough time to burn up the food you've eaten. Mm-hmm. So you'll use that for an energy first of all. And then when it's run out of food after 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours, it's going to go straight to your fat to burn it off for more energy. So it gives the body a chance to get into your fat stores to burn energy. Otherwise, you're just burning sugar all the time.
It makes so much sense.
Yeah, but we're always told to just eat little and often all the time. Grazing is the worst thing you can do for fat and energy.
Interesting.
So the second thing is as well, that's very, very useful. We talk a lot about intermittent fasting these days, the 5-2 and all of that. Now that generally I've found doesn't work very well for women over 40. And the reason is that we have all these hormone imbalances, and it just doesn't tend to suit nourishing those hormones very well. So I found a better way of doing it, and it's called overnight fasting, where you have your dinner, say at 7 o'clock, then you don't eat anything else, you go to bed, and then you have breakfast. So the window is 12 to 16 hours. The closer you can get to 16 hours, the better it is for your fat burning and your insulin resistance and all of those things that fasting generally benefits. Mm-hmm. So if you get to 7 o'clock in the morning, that's your 12-hour stint. So that's very viable for most people. If you can make it to 11, that's a 16-hour fast. And that's a really good thing to do for weight loss. So you don't have to do the 5-2. You just have to 2 or 3 days a week, just try and make it to 11 without eating or drinking kind of anything other than water or herbal tea. in between those periods. So if you delay your breakfast, hey, isn't it great for people that say to me, oh, I hate eating breakfast. I don't do breakfast. I'm never hungry. Fantastic.
You're giving them permission to not have breakfast occasionally.
Totally. And that's the other thing we've always been told, eat your breakfast every single day. Don't skip breakfast. Well, actually, the science is now saying that doesn't actually help really. You know, for a lot of people, you could do this extended fast and get to 11 and then have a kind of brunchy snack or whatever, or an early lunch. And that's going to do your body more good. But only, again, caveat, only if you're not diabetic or you don't have these dizzy spells or you have any kind of symptoms of hypoglycemia, which is low blood sugar.
So you wouldn't recommend doing that every day?
You could do it every day, yeah, but you could fit it into your lifestyle, because a lot of, you know, if you're going out that night, that's going to be really hard to do that. So on a night where you're staying in, where you are not going to be anywhere for breakfast the next day or whatever, you could do it then and fit it into your lifestyle. So where you don't, or you could do it the other way around as well. You could kind of skip dinner and have an early breakfast if you wanted to do that too, or a late lunch.
So if you're going to do it, you need to have a breakfast around 11ish, then like a later lunch and then dinner, or it doesn't matter to skip a whole meal? It doesn't actually matter.
You know, I know some of the gurus in the States are doing this sort of eating in between 12 and 6, the window, they call it, so that the rest of the time they're fasting. But, oh God, who's going to be able to stick to that? I mean, I would never be able to go that long without food. I'm just like...
It's so funny. It's so...
obsessing about it.
It's so interesting to me. I mean, the idea of conditioning, how we are conditioned to believe what we believe. I mean, I the reason I'm doing this series is because I was conditioned to believe that hitting peri-menopause meant it's all over. That's it. Downhill slope from here. No more sex drive. Gonna get old and wrinkly, and that's it.
I got a whole new career out of it.
So. Yeah, no, you did. So many.
I changed my life in peri-menopause. So
starting new careers, and
I'm so much happier now. So you know, I think it's a chance for people to do that, to create a new life for themselves, and start the second half of your life in good health. You've got to feel well to do that, to have the energy to do that and the motivation to do that. And that's where we come in, to really get you feeling at your best. We talk about getting you back to your best so that then you can do whatever you want to do in the next half of your life.
Yeah, totally. Well, I've been conditioned to think that I have to have breakfast. It's almost like for me not to have, I mean, I don't remember the last time I didn't have breakfast. I have breakfast every day. It's like, I have this belief that I will not be healthy and I will not have the energy to get through the day if I don't have breakfast. It's deeply ingrained.
Yeah.
So you saying I don't have to?
No, I don't have to. There really are no rules about this. You know, every single body is very different as well. So some people will need breakfast. The minute they get up, they are starving. So absolutely eat something, you know. But if you're not hungry and if you're not that bothered and you feel okay, then delay it a little bit. And also the other thing is really interesting is, exercising before food in the morning. So if you're doing it first thing in the morning, your body is using up extra energy to do that exercise. So what's it going to do if it's run out of carbs and sugar? It's going to burn fat much more than it would do had you had a meal before you then go and exercise. Yeah. So, exercising on an empty stomach is great as long as you've got the energy to do that. So obviously if you're feeling tired or dizzy or whatever, obviously don't go off and do lots of intense exercise. Fair enough.
And I got a bit distracted there. I was listening to you, but my Q&A screen just went massive. Oh. And I don't know how to minimize it again, but that's okay. I'll work with that. Okay. We'll actually, before I go to Q&A, then we've got 3 questions there, but why don't we just continue what we were talking about? So we were looking at your top tips for fighting fat and fatigue. Yeah, those are my top 2 really. So stop snacking and do this, try an overnight fast if weight is becoming a bit of a hard to shift. Yeah. Okay. But enough protein and fat at each meal. That will enable you to not feel hungry in between meals. So if your meals are, lots of protein, lots of fat, tons of veggies, they're really, really filling then. And that will keep you full. It won't spike your blood sugar, so you won't get a crash in between meals. And then, you can sustain that energy mood all the way up to the next meal. Can I ask a cheeky personal question? I mean, it is my series after all, so I can get my free advice too. What do you think I've been having like this week, actually, I pre-planned all of my meals this week so that I knew that I was just really healthy with lots of energy so that I could, be on form for this. Lots of self-care for me this week. and I made myself a big batch of really yummy vegetable soup, just plain vegetables. I felt good on it this week, but is that enough at a meal, just to have vegetables?
What kind of stock did you make it with?
I just allow the stock to come out of the vegetables themselves, okay. But this time I actually did add half a cube of an organic vegetable callo.
Okay.
So, you know, that brand.
So I'm kind of looking for some protein in there. That's the thing. So
right.
I want you to have protein and fat at every meal. So the fat would you have some olive oil in there or something?
Olive oil, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I would be adding in some form of protein. So I make vegetable soups with chicken stock. That would be my protein. Right?
Oh, really? That would be enough?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Or you can throw in some beans as well, kind of black beans or
I had chickpeas in it. I don't know if chickpeas.
Yeah, chickpeas have got some protein in, so you did all right there. You got your protein in.
Gold star.
But beans are good. Lentils, great. So you can throw some lentils in as well. Great. And they all come like ready cooked now, aren't they? So you don't have to slave away cooking lentils and beans and whatever. You can just throw them in from a packet.
Okay.
I'm against processed foods, but some processed foods you kind of need, and
it just speeds it up, doesn't it?
Yeah, no one wants to be boiling beans or lentils for hours in their kitchen every day. So okay. Soup is fantastic. Yeah, you're packing in your portions, and you've got a little, make it with some really good meat stock. Organic where possible, because organic is critical for your hormones, because pesticides really disrupt them. So we want to be going organic as much as possible.
I've just been talking to my boyfriend. I'm like, you have to stop buying non-organic vegetables. I will not eat them, especially broccoli, because I eat so much of it.
Right, absolutely. And it's where you're eating the skin of something. So broccoli, apples, berries, that kind of salads, really important to get organic, because you're eating all the surface of that. But bananas, avocados, oranges, you don't need to worry too much because you're not eating the skin. Yeah, and that's where you can save a bit of money on those kind of things.
Great. I'm going to replay that section too here and say, see, Nikki said so. All right, I'm going to jump over to the Q&A. We've got 3 questions. The first is from Jean, and Jean, I've said this to most of the experts, Jean has been on every single interview and asked the question every single time.
Well done, Jean.
And you know what, Jean? Because of that, get in touch with me. You know how to get in touch with me. I'm going to give you, I would really love to gift you a free coaching session with me, which is actually really valuable, by the way. I didn't suggest in the beginning that I was going to give anything away for Q&As, but I cannot, Jean, Q&A I think really makes an interview. I love it. I love that personal input from people. It makes the interview go somewhere where you weren't expecting it to go, which I think is always really fun. And Jean has asked a question every time, and I really want to support you and give back, actually. So get in touch with me. We'll have an hour together.
Could I also say that I would love to send her my book as well, as a little extra prize.
There we go. Yes. So Jean, send me your postal address as well, and I'll pass it on. So Jean's question is, my husband thinks...
actually, it depends on the question. If it's a horrible one, I'll rescind that. Go on.
She's saying, oh, lovely, thanks. That's nice. Okay, so she says, my husband thinks he is in andropause and would be interested in getting hormone tested. He's 54 and hasn't felt really well for 2 years. Can he get this done?
Yeah, absolutely. We do help men as well as women. Obviously a lot less of them, because they don't generally come forward because they kind of hide things. And also because they don't really understand that they're going through changes as well. So it's nowhere near as intense or extreme for most men, because we just have much more many more fluctuations than them because of our ovaries, but they can suffer. So yeah, absolutely, get in touch, and you can just email me. I think you've got details, haven't you, Katie? With
yes, you're happyhormonesforlife.com.
Yeah, so go to the contact page on the website and just drop me a message, and we'll get that sorted out.
Perfect. And then somebody whose name, it's not a name, I don't, unless it is Simp, who has asked questions before as well. So welcome back. Thank you for joining. If we want to get help from Nikki but don't live nearby, how does she do distance testing?
Oh, that's really easy. All our tests are in kit form, so they go to your house. They get sent to your house in the post. So we
Oh
send
my
them all over
God,
the
that's
world.
amazing.
We've got clients in Canada and America, Africa, Dubai. I mean, the list is endless. Yeah, they go across. Generally, Dubai is a bit tricky because of customs, but Australia we've done as well. So the test kits get sent. You do them at home, and you send them off in the reply envelope, and then we get emailed the results, and we go through everything virtually. We don't have clinics. We have Skypes or Zooms like this, or phone calls, and everything is done virtually. So you can sit at home in your pajamas and not worry.
That's amazing. And actually, you just reminded me of something earlier when you were talking about how you test certain hormones throughout the day. Does that mean when we actually do the test, we do them at certain points during the day?
Yeah.
So
mainly the saliva one, you just spit into a little tube, morning, midday, afternoon, and evening, and that produces this lovely graph of where you are compared to where we think you should be, and that enables us to see if there's any imbalance.
Amazing. I love it. And then another question from Jean: is occasional dizziness a sign of insulin imbalance?
Sometimes. Sometimes dizziness. It can also be a bit of low blood pressure. It could also be adrenals, if your adrenals aren't pumping out enough cortisol, that can make you a little bit dizzy. So and also it could be a nutrient deficiency. So often B12 can make you feel a little bit dizzy too, so lack of B12. So lots of things we'd look at depending on your other symptoms and your history as well. And medications is another thing that's a common side effect too. So we'd have a look at what might be causing it and address that. Because we're all about root cause. It's not about treating symptoms. We want to find out why you're feeling like this. And when we get to the root cause, then we can get rid of that and address that. Then everything else, your body does the rest.
Perfect. Well, I just loved my time with you. I can't believe this is the end of my series.
It's all over. Except it's not, is it? It's not really all over.
So not over. This is just the beginning of, it's interesting, ideas coming and all sorts. It'll be really interesting to see where my menopause
what goes next. What
happens next. So before we wrap up, Nikki, is there any key message that you would like the audience to take away?
I would say, take responsibility for your own health. No one else is going to do it for you. The doctors are very busy people. They're not, unless you're kind of dying or in very deep, really bad health condition, they're not going to be able to get you to feeling great. Because they're just not, they don't have the resources all the time. They're really looking at chronic cases. So where you want to get to better health, optimal health, you need to be doing that yourself. And what I'd say is don't do it on your own. Get help. Invest in yourself if you need to. It's the most important money you will ever spend, because your health affects everybody around you. It's not just you. And that's why I love doing this work. You get a woman back to her best, and the ripple effect on everyone around her is just huge, because everybody depends on you being good. And if you're not good, you're actually affecting everyone. And it goes back to what you're saying about being selfish. Actually think it's selfish not to help yourself.
So do I. I'm with you. It is selfish not to help yourself.
It really is. Yeah. And I think of it as, if we can get you operating again like you used to, or back to your best, it's such a gift for everyone around you. It's huge. So give that gift to people. Get yourself back into proper health. And also, by doing that, you're preventing that the chronic diseases up ahead of us, which the statistics are incredibly scary now. So, we want to be doing everything we can now. This is the perfect time to get yourself sorted so that you reduce those risks and you have a good quality of life as you get older.
Amen.
Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you so much, darling. You're
very, very welcome. And thank you for putting this whole series on. I know it's been really hard work. I can see that just from the sidelines. So well done.
It's actually been fun. I'm not just saying that. I have really enjoyed it.
So this is your calling. This is it. You should be doing more of this. This is great. And this is getting the message out to so many women who need They need to know this information. It's, you know, I'm getting such a varied amount from everybody else. Lots of different things they can try, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for your input. It's
You're very welcome.
valuable. And thank you everybody who has been live. And if you're actually just working your way through all the recordings of the series and you finally got to the end, congratulations. And there'll be more. There will be more. Watch this space. It isn't over. And we women need more support in this area. And yeah, we need to just call out that white elephant in the room and just make menopause the most natural thing that it is, you know. Yeah. Thank you again, Nikki. Thanks everybody. Loads of love. See you again soon.